Bill Tatkovsky got in touch with me, and he's got a project he'd like to share with us, and I'm quite intrigued by what he described. So I'm going to turn to Bill first, if that's okay with everybody.
Well, good morning, uh, everybody. I have can you hear me all, or am I on
Yes,
there? We
hear
we
you
good?
good.
Okay. What I'm going to attempt to do here, show slides from a project I did with Stephen Hogbin's book. I was uh, gifted a book shortly after we had a Zoom uh, how do you say it, memorial for Stephen. I guess sometime in January, I think we did.
Yes, in the
But
winter.
I was gifted the book, uh, and let's see. I'm gonna go on to this. I was gifted the book, and I was inspired by it, and I saw one of the projects in there, an Eggcup, which I will go through the slides, but I had to as I say, copy his work. I don't consider it plagiarism. I don't sell my work like that per se, and I respect the artist's work. And you'll see on the bottom of the work that I have, I referenced his work, which was done in 1975. But we'll go into that. All right, I'll start. You have me what? Sharing the screen now.
I have
Let's
you.
see.
We have a spotlight on you now. You share screen.
Okay, I'll share. I'll hit it. But anyway, this is the book that I was gifted, and it's a wonderful book, and it inspired me to do this project.
May I say that I
Um,
was the editor of that book? That was my
yes,
last professional project.
really. You're mentioned in here in the acknowledgments,
Yep.
as but I found his work to be very different and interesting, and I'd never seen or heard his work in my time, but I was inspired by it. But let me just show you. I'll advance one. Let's see if this is gonna. I'm gonna go to that one. This is what inspired me. This is what he did. 1975. He got this inspiration while on a flight, 20-hour flight from Canada to Australia. Uh, and he was going to work at a college there or teach at a college in Australia. But I was intrigued by this. My wife collects Pysanky. She's Ukrainian, and I've made a number of egg cups for her collection. But so I decided I want to do this. So how do you do this? And that was my dilemma, and my interest to figure it out. So looking at the drawing, and they gave a dimension of a 8-inch square, 1-inch thick. They started with, so that was my base. So being a little bit somewhat of a designer myself, I drew this up because this is the only way I can work on this. And this up top is a cross section, and you can see, how that would work. This is a full size on a piece of like tracing paper. Um, so the cross section part is what remains. So you must turn the section off, and so I made up a template, and you'll see. Let's see. Let me go over here. Yeah, here's how I went to Woodcraft store, and I bought. I never used real exotic woods or had experience, so they sold me bloodwood. Uh, Stephen used some kind of oak, a she oak or something, I think, that's native to Australia. But this is bloodwood, so I never worked with that. And here, the Woodcraft store, they were able to join the edges, so I was able to glue them because I needed a 8 by 8 panel. So I'm going to cut this out of bloodwood, and let me tell you, bloodwood. It's red dust, and it's very dense, very heavy. It's almost plastic-like. It was very, how do you say, dulling on my tools. But we manage. Now I have the ability here, you see 3 pieces to make 3 objects. What I did to date, I only made 1. I have the others are drawn out. But what you have to do, you have to draw on those blanks, to get the centers and stuff. Now, here you go. Here you see I have a small, medium, or a mini cold chuck. It has about a 9-inch capacity, and it just fit. Now, you might wonder, 4 of those rubber bumpers would hold that thing, but I brought up the tailstock, and it worked quite well. And I was able to hold it securely and cut rather carefully, So what I was doing on this project, you have to turn 2 sides. You turn one side first, and then you have to do the back side. Now, this is the first side. I used a, what do you call it, parting tool to locate the depths, the lowest parts of the section. So you can cut it, and it worked quite well. But I used a 3/8 inch skew chisel, or not a skew chisel, a spindle gouge. I'm sorry, 3/8 inch, and that seemed kind of light on that hardwood. You'd get some vibration, but that tool, I had to make some bevels on the bottom of it, and I had used that tool to turn tops. So it was a modified 3/8 spindle gouge, but I would say it's a little too light. And don't turn it real fast, but it held okay. And here you go closer, and there's a template that I made. You can see my hand there with the template, and working it down. There you go. Now that's a finished part. Now that's sanded up to 600, going through all the grits, and that's pretty well finished for now. And then what you would do is take that, and this would be the backside. You have to draw on these objects. You have to, know where your cuts are. So this is the backside, and you have to align the next, this was the backside. Now you'll see in the end, this, I tell you, Stephen, when Hogbin there, when I looked at how to do this, it really made me think, how in the world did he do it? And, to contemplate something on an airplane, going, but this would be the backside, and that cutout groove has to align with the bump out on the other side to get the, be able to set the egg in. So, and here you go. Accuracy, I don't know, on Stephen Hogbin's work, the pieces fit together incredibly. You can see here, I have a steel flat plate and sandpaper trying to get the edges lined up. In my table saw, I used, I should have had a better blade and check the vertical alignment very accurately, because I don't know, it's very difficult. That's the most hardest part. But I had to, like lap those, I guess would be the term, lapping them to fit properly. And that wood, you can see how dense it is. There's no open grain, and it's very heavy. And there's the piece after I glued it together, and I had to use the saber tooth, the cutters that they have, the carbide cutters, to align you can see the edges have to be fairly close, and to support an egg. I used Dremel. I got some new Dremel stuff, some of the bits and pieces, and was cleaning it up. And this is basically, it's unfinished. That would be my question. This will show you what it's like, the bloodwood. Now this is unfinished, no finish. It's just buffed. And the fellow at the store said it'll oxidize or change colors. So I don't know what to rub on it, but it's very hard, dense wood. And there's some of my wife's Pasankis, actual hollowed out eggs. But some of the joints here, this wasn't up to my standard, but it frustrated me to try to get it. But you can see how the pieces fit together and how they're glued. And there's another shot of it. I like the color of it, but
knowing how Stephen worked a little bit, Bill, I suspect he probably glued the block up with paper in the first place. Prepared the surfaces plain, smooth, and square, and then glued with a piece of magazine paper in between them, so it could be split apart and just cleaned up after. I think. I'm not sure though.
Yeah. But here, this is a picture of what I do my lettering on the bottom, but the original piece created by master turner Stephen Hogbin, 1975. This was Eggcup, and mine is a recreation, Bloodwood 2022. But it's an interesting project. I have two more to do. I have the wood ready, marked, and hopefully it'll turn a little easier for me this time. But the first time, I tell you, I really struggled, and I wanted to, do like he did, how did I say it when I sent you that? I wanted to walk in his ways, but use the lathe ways, so.
Well, I got to tell you, throughout his career, Stephen was never an expert turner. He was a scraper mostly. He learned how to use a gouge and had all the tools, but most of the big things that he did were done with scraping tools. In the early
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to end your share now, unless you got more slides.
No, that's it, John.
Did we see a good view of your finished piece? The one before that? Can you go back to that for a second?
Yeah. Right there.
That's the one. Yeah. Very nice piece.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Bill, nice job.
Thank you.
Hey, a little bit of a mahogany wood filler in there. That'll take care of that crack.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing something, with the dust, and I was afraid, like CA glue, it'll spread out, or, I don't know. But it took a lot of time to hone, or to, lap those, to try to get them together. That wood is awful. I don't know. Anybody use bloodwood before? Or
Bill, I made a Mike Stafford box for my daughter about 5 or 6 years ago in bloodwood. It's beautiful to turn. You know what I'd recommend on that crack? Who was it? Bonnie Klein years ago. I did hosted a hands-on with her, and she requested that she have some Zinsser's aerosol shellac. And you can spray some on Bounty towel or Blue Shock towel and put a very light white on the wood around the crack. Then apply the CA and use one of the little micro nozzles and some of the bloodwood sanding dust and fill it. It'll look better than the hole. And then you can sand that very light coating of shellac off. But that bloodwood's hard enough that the CA shouldn't penetrate it. On a soft wood like cherry, it will penetrate and stain. But I don't think if you just spray some of the shellac on the paper towel very lightly. It works every time. I've loved it ever since. In fact, I'm on my second can. The other bonus of it is that you have to keep the nozzle clean on the can, but it's the handiest stuff around when you're working with CA.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
It's beautiful wood. Nice job. First off, I think John was right. He probably cut it apart and glued it back together with the paper joint, because that way it gives you the exact centers. You know exactly where you're at. The other thing is, if you ever laminate bloodwood with maple or any lighter woods, it'll bleed all over it. You'll love it. It's just a total mess.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was a challenge.
Hey,
Yeah,
Bill, I've used bloodwood before, and I used that original wood finish from Tried and True, and it really works well on it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is that like a rub-on finish, or you?
It is. It's got a wax and an oil base, which you're going to need a good oil finish because this is an oily wood.
Okay.
You could try Osmo as well. Osmo is a hard wax oil, and it would probably be complementary on there as well. It's an oil and wax base.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Just to say, I used a micrometer, the probing part of the micrometer, to be able to get my depths, how deep you want to go, and from my drawing, basically that's what I did. I followed my drawing. And by having a drawing, that worked. And I am blown away with Stephen Hogbin on an airplane flight, conceived the idea, but and sketched it. But I think he freewheeled like what I did drawing and trying to micro reproduce it. But it's amazing what he did. And
he drew everything before he made it. He was one of these guys. He was trained as an industrial designer, so his habit was he kept many, many sketchbooks, enormous pages, and he drew everything before he made it. And he usually drew it afterwards as well. That's where he taught me that way back when.
Really? Yeah. I want to do his walking bowl, but I would be challenged to see the size, keep it small, so, it will sit on a shelf or something, that.
But his are small. The trick there is you're going to be turning an airplane propeller, and you can kill yourself with that. So what you do is mount the airplane propeller on a piece of plywood, so it's no longer an airplane propeller. It's a full disc. There's nothing there to stick your arm through or your tool through. It's not that you can actually stick your arm through it. It's that you can get a tool caught in there, and suddenly the whole thing grinds to a halt and breaks apart. And you got it. If you put it on a backer disc, it's becomes a safe operation, whereas otherwise it's a very, very dangerous operation.
Okay.
And I think that's detailed in the book, as I recollect.
Yeah, it's a great book. I couldn't put it down. I thought I got to try this.
Boy, that feels good to me.
People see that. If I don't have an egg on it, it's sitting as you come in the house there, and what is that? So I have some fun with it.
That book is an example of how this community works in ways. Mark Fury and Stephen and there were a couple of other people in on the discussion, but basically Stephen had done a picture book of the work he did in his fellowship in Australia. And then the question was, well, we'd like to see these as projects. Will you do a project book? And it was quite a long discussion before he could see a way to do a project book that would have the kind of integrity that goes with a mature artist, and that it still was a publishable book that guys like you would love. And so it was a long project, and it was in the bake for a long time, and it came out really well. But Stephen was like that. He worked on things for a long time.
Yes. Yeah. We had our Zoom, I guess it was December or January, my wife picked up my remarks, and said something to one of my daughters, and I was totally blown away when they gifted me the book, and
Well, it's an excellent discussion. I'm going to go back to a gallery view and see if there's any more questions or comments here.
okay.
Okay, then I'm going to move. Thank you very much, Bill. That was a great show.
You bet.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.